Connie Fuchs with Foote Title Group. Welcome to Coffee with Connie. First, let me say thank you so much for tuning in today. I know how important your time is, particularly in the morning when you're trying to get everybody off to school, off to work, to get everything going. And I understand that that time is really valuable. So I appreciate you taking the time and tuning in and checking in too. If you happen to be listening to us live or on the replay, let me know that you're on. When we're on live, it helps me a whole lot. Gauge the audience that we're talking to at the present. And then if you happen to be tuning in on the replay, let me know that you watched. It really helps me understand who is watching, so I understand the kind of information that potentially could help you with some real estate questions and needs that you have. So we're starting out this morning. Hey there, Lisa, how are you? So we're starting out this morning, the first couple days of this great week and the beginning of March. And I guess the weather is cooperating to some extent about how that's going. So hopefully you guys are having an awesome start to your week. And I really look forward to talking to you guys in the morning. So today we wanted to talk about what happens when the cable company just shows up and starts digging in your yard. Hey there, Karen. Hey, Lisa Rowe. How are you this morning? Thank you guys for tuning in. So when the cable company shows up and just starts digging in your yard, how can that actually happen? You know, a lot of times people will say, well, you know, this is my property. Why are you on my property? What gives you the right to come and dig and do things in my yard? Hey there, Craig. How are you? So with respect to the ownership of your property, one of the things that you may find if you have cable lines or telephone lines or even water and sewer lines for that matter, when the neighborhood that you live in is designed and developed, the developer who actually took all of the property and bought the big piece of property and decided to cut it up, one of the things that the utilities require in order to bring utilities to your particular piece of property is that they have the ability to get on that property and maintain those utilities. So when you buy a piece of property, particularly in a developed neighborhood, more than likely there's going to be what's called an easement. And an easement gives someone the right to come onto your property to do something specific. And that easement is a legal document that is recorded in that chain of ownership that you purchased when you purchased that property. So it should have been disclosed to you when you actually went to closing and purchased that piece of property. You should have been told about, and more than likely you were, told about all of the different easements, if there are any, that affect that ownership. Hey there, Pandora. How are you this morning, girl? Hopefully I look forward to seeing you tomorrow afternoon. Hey, John. Thanks for tuning in. So when that developer actually cut those lots out of that big piece of property, the utilities said, all right, well, we're going to bring utilities to those particular properties, but we have to have the ability to maintain those. And so when that easement is designed, it allows them to come onto your property in a specific area and maintain those utilities, upgrade them, do any repairs to them, and they don't have to tell you when they come onto that piece of property. Now, when you purchase that piece of property, if you asked to have a location survey would actually designate where those easements are, and typically they run around where the power lines come in, usually along the property lines. Hey there, Marcos. How are you this morning? Good morning, Miss Karen. So the utility lines typically run along the property lines, and typically that's where the easements are designed. And a survey, when you purchased a piece of property, if you requested and received a location survey, more than likely it will designate where those utility easements are. Now, technically, that utility company doesn't have the right to go anywhere else but where those easements are without your permission, because their right is only to do maintenance and repair and reinstall or update those utilities that are actually there. Now, with that said, sometimes you're going to run into a situation, maybe, you know, I live in an area where the utility lines are really old, and so they're constantly coming on and maintaining them. And actually one time one of my neighbors called me and said, hey, while I was at work, said, hey, the cable company is over at your house digging up your yard. And of course I didn't know anything about it. Now, in that scenario, they have the right to go where the easement is, but then in this case, they were actually rerunning a line to my house, and the easement doesn't run right there, but sometimes in the easements, it gives them the right to maintain the line all the way to where it comes into the house. So you have to look at that information and make sure you understand it. But, you know, if you're serviced by an area that has cable lines, FiOS lines, phone lines, water and sewer lines, then more than likely at some point during your ownership, unless you're only there for a really short period of time, there may be a need to come in and do some maintenance on those. Now, if they're brand new or newer lines, more than likely it's not going to be, it may not happen very quickly, but at some point there may be a time when they need to come onto that property to maintain those lines. So you need to make sure when you purchase a piece of property that you understand what easements are recorded on that property in that chain of ownership, so you understand who has the right to enter on that property. Now, you also, and most utilities have the process where they will actually come up, contact you, let you know that they're going to be doing that. But if it's something they're doing for the whole neighborhood, let's say, for example, your electric isn't out, but your neighbor's 4 houses down is, and for some reason it didn't affect you, but the break might be close to your property or in the front of your property, it's very likely that they may be coming in, and the electric company may be coming in and digging up some of that property so they can actually work on those utility lines. Because the older lines were actually up on poles, running down the sides of your property. More often than not now, most of the utility lines are under the ground, which makes them less susceptible to weather issues, and particularly as in the East Coast, we've seen some of these crazy weather things. Those kind of things do affect utility lines. But so more often than not, now in the newer neighborhoods, you'll see that the utility lines are underground. The problem with that is, in order for them to maintain them, they need to be able to dig those up and do some work there. So those easements typically run along the front or the sides of your property. And there's also typically, if you're in a neighborhood that is a developed neighborhood, you may see on that survey that you have building restriction lines. Hey there, Cliff. How are you this morning? Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for sharing. I really appreciate that. And let me say, if any of you or all of you find that the information we're talking about is interesting, please hit that little share button on your screen. I would really appreciate it. It helps get the information that we're talking about out to the people that you know, because those are people I don't know. And as I always like to say, sharing is caring, and you're caring about those people you know by sharing that information. So thanks so much for doing that. So the building restriction lines that you'll see on your survey also protect those easements for the utility companies, because they say that you cannot build any permanent structure within a certain amount of feet of the sides of your property lines. And typically that is partly because protecting the neighborhood, it's a planning thing, but it also is a way for the utility companies to make sure that nothing gets in their way when they need to work on those items, to be able to work on those lines in your yard. So, hey there, Pauline. Thanks for sharing and thanks for tuning in. Hey, Lisa. So you want to make sure that you're not building on top of those easements, because then they're going to have to do some movement to those permanent structures in order to be able to get to those utility lines. Because even though we don't want them coming in and digging up our yard or doing that kind of work in the yard, we have to remember that without those things being done, we won't be able to have the conveniences that we're used to. So an easement gives somebody the ability to come onto your property in a designated area and do some work. And typically the utilities have those on any properties that you have public utilities for. So that's why they have the right to do it. They have to repair it to the way it was. And you may want to ask for copies of those easements, or when you go to closing, make sure that you understand if you have utilities, then more than likely you have those, and you want to understand what rights it gives the utility company for you. Hey there, Miss Tracy. Good morning to you. Hey, Pam. How are you today? Thank you guys for tuning in. So hopefully it helped you understand a little bit. Typically easements are so that a designated organization can get on and off that property for specific things. There is a different ability to travel on properties for individuals that's called right-of-ways, and that we could talk about at another time. But today, talking about easements for the utility companies and allowing them to get on your property to do repairs to utilities. And as I said, it may not be your utilities that are having an issue. It may be ones down the road, so you may not even know that there's a problem, and you see them digging things up and you say, well, gosh, I'm not having any problems. Why are you here? Why are you digging this up? And so they have the right to do that because those utility lines service that whole neighborhood. So hopefully that helped you with a little bit of information today. I did want to share with you, as I have said to you several times, every month we're trying to put out some new information for you that is helpful for your closing. And I know with the weather changing, everybody's starting to get out and looking at new homes. There's a lot of first-time home buyers out there starting to look, getting back in the market. And so I want you to know, on our website, on our blog, through our emails, through our social media, there are lots of resources on there that can help you out. www.foottetitlegroup.com. Go to the resources page, and there are guides to all different types of things. We are working on new pieces of material for you all the time. And starting this afternoon, we're going to be launching our 73 Ways You Could Lose Your Home, which is 73 different ways that someone could come in and claim an ownership interest in your property. So that's going to be live this afternoon. You'll be able to download it online. You can request a hard copy if you'd like. It's a pamphlet, and you'll be able to do that right through our website or through our social media channels. So keep your eyes peeled for that. It's a great resource, and it'll help you understand going forward why you need to protect your home ownership. And hopefully I helped you a little bit today understand a little bit about easements and utility companies and how the cable company can dig up your yard without even asking. Hope you guys have an awesome day. I'm Connie Foote with Foote Title Group, where we protect your home ownership. Have a fabulous day, guys, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.